This is 6:12 ABC Brisbane, 12 minutes to 10. There was also an unusual disagreement between two highly educated legal officers. So I just want to wind this one back a little bit. Murray Gleeson, the outgoing Solicitor General.
Justin.
I'm sorry, Murray was his dad, wasn't it? He was the senior. My apologies. Former High Court member. Justin Gleeson, Solicitor General of Australia, gave some sort of briefing to the Labor opposition in the lead up to the last federal government. And the federal election, did not advise the Minister, the Attorney General, Queensland Senator George Brandis. George Brandis took umbrage at this and imposed a rule that now permission must be sought before that happens. And that's going to be thrown out by the Senate. Andrew Laming, why is your side of politics so animated about a good legal mind giving legal advice to Her Majesty's opposition?
One quick answer: trust. So if you can't trust your employee, a public servant in this case, the relationship is over, Steve. And the moment trust was gone, if you can't trust someone in your workplace and they are a public servant, there's plenty of good legal minds in Australia who can do this job. The 5-year term is too long, Steve. This person was appointed just weeks before Julie Gillard lost power, and then for 5 years there are going to be problems that can't be fixed by coalition government unless there is one very, very sort of specific requirement about inappropriate conduct, and that did not occur. But I think 5 years is too long. I think trust was absolutely gone, and now that he has resigned, the problem is gone, and you'll find a new Solicitor General will cruise along like all of the others without an issue.
I haven't heard George Brandis say, "I don't trust the Solicitor General of Australia." Or did I miss that?
That's my observation, that trust was completely gone between those individuals. And one is a public servant, and one is elected to be the Minister of the Crown, and one has to go.
It's normal for public servants to give advice, including to the opposition.
Yep.
That's quite normal. So what's unusual about
They have to tell the government
Well,
before
that's
they do
not
it.
true, Andrew.
Yeah. But
As
anyway,
you
trust
know,
is gone, and he is gone, and now we move on.
Well,
Terri Butler.
The opposition routinely gets confidential advice from the Parliamentary Budget Office to get independently costed policies done.
That's
it's
different.
not entirely the case
Very
that
different
you should
legislation.
not have
The PBO was set up to give advice to
Yes.
the Parliament, though, wasn't it,
Yes.
Terri?
Directly.
And it's not necessarily the case that because someone is a public servant that they should be constrained in what they can do in terms of providing frank and fearless advice. Now, the reason that you have a long term for someone who is the Solicitor General of this country is because someone on a short-term contract would be compromised in their ability to give frank and fearless advice. That's the point. It's the same reason that judges have tenure in this country rather than being elected like they are in the United States, so that they can do what's right and are under less pressure at risk of having their livelihoods taken away. That's what we're talking about here. Do you want to have a Solicitor General who feels some pressure, whether it's stated or not, to provide advice in a partisan way that suits the government of the day? Or do you want a Solicitor General who is at liberty to provide frank and fearless advice, including to the opposition where that's appropriate? And I haven't heard anyone suggest that it's not appropriate.
Terri,
Except for Andrew just now, of course.
If the roles were reversed and the Labor Party was in power, the government of the day, and found out that Justin had given legal advice to the opposition, the LNP, and had not told your Attorney General, would that not raise any eyebrows for your side of policy?
In an election campaign.
No, of
In an
course.
election campaign?
Even worse.
If a ministerial advisor to the Attorney General had given advice to the opposition, that of course would be a breach of trust. If an independent senior public servant, the Solicitor General, the second law officer of the country, had acted in an appropriate manner in providing advice, then that's a very, very different kettle of fish. I mean, do you expect that people like, for example, the Ombudsman or the Inspector General of Taxation or the Inspector General of Intelligence and Security are not at liberty to exercise their own judgment and to provide advice and to issue advice when
They can
that's
do all that.
appropriate?
They tell the government. That's all. They just tell the government. Look, in answer to your second question, Steve.
So the main concern is that the government didn't know
Wasn't told,
during the course of an election campaign.
That undermines
and this
trust
broke the trust
massively.
relationship for your side of politics.
Massively undermines it, and that's why he's gone.
But
To
that's
finish
just
your
a
second part of the
nonsense.
question,
It's just a nonsense,
the regulation
Andrew.
to
Your
throw
argument
out
is
that
that
the two
people
senators
shouldn't be
are
able
going
to
to
give
do.
advice.
I support that. You no longer need this regulation because Mr. Gleeson is gone.
has the government a replacement in mind?
Sorry, what
I
did you
wouldn't
just say?
know.
missed
I
that.
wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if he has one.
You're saying that regulation was needed because of the person who was
No,
occupying the
you
office?
just flipped it. You flipped it 100%. I said it's no longer needed now because he's gone, and if it gets thrown out, it doesn't matter. Justice Gleeson's gone.
So you're saying the regulation was about him?
No, you just flipped what I said.
No,
I said
no.
now that he's gone,
Well,
you don't need that
the regulation
regulation.
is going to be rejected by Parliament,
That's
isn't
right,
it?
and it's
Because-
not a problem now because you are now appointing someone else. This was done because they didn't trust.
Well, it does
Gleeson.
sound like that regulation was set up for Justin Gleeson then, doesn't it?
But-
Because
but-
if it's not... The way
Yeah,
I'm interpreting
true.
it does sound like it's...
I just didn't say that, but you can
Okay.
you can infer that.
well, that's what it sounds like to
That
me.
is
Am I
the
wrong?
inference that anyone would
say
draw,
it.
isn't it? Wouldn't
Yeah.
anyone draw
He's
that
gone. You
inference?
don't need the regulation now.
All right. Does the government have a replacement in mind?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's plenty of great legal minds out there, Steve.
Well,
There's plenty of people who can do the job.
I wouldn't think that we
including
would
Terri.
have an Attorney General who would be making regulations specifically because they don't like the holder of an office. I think that's a pretty scandalous thing that you just said, Andrew.
It is surprising that these two well-educated men couldn't resolve their differences, couldn't fix that situation. I mean, normally if we have a problem in the staff here at the ABC, or you go to lunch with someone, you talk, you have a coffee, you try and clear the air. You try and smooth the path. In my mind, it's always wisdom to try and smooth things over and clear the air with someone, isn't it?
And, the Attorney General should take responsibility for his failure to be able to maintain an appropriate relationship with the Solicitor-General. And if George Brandis was doing what he should be doing, he would resign.
Look, Terri makes a fair point that a relationship between two people is the job of two people. But in the end, one's a public servant, one's running the country. The public servant had to go. He's gone. Problem is solved, and there'll be a new person appointed. It'll work fine.
Attorney General who couldn't even maintain the confidence of the Solicitor General. I think that he should take a good hard look at himself.
6 minutes to 10. This is 6:12 ABC Brisbane.